Any fans of the UFC know that there are very few greater rivalries than the one between Conor McGregor and Dustin Poirier. But that doesn't mean that the two men don't have respect for each other. In fact, Poirier thinks that the Irishman has a better chance of winning on his return. Yeah, you heard that right. The Diamond thinks that the Notorious still has what it takes to win. Let's face it, guys, one of the biggest news coming out of MMA this year was the possible return of McGregor to the octagon.
Alvarez getting loose, getting better here in this round, though.
Oh, man.
Until that.
Oh, he's done. He's done.
History has been made. Conor McGregor is the UFC lightweight champion.
And with him in the picture, fighters are always lining up for a match. Why? Well, because it's the money fight. So now, out of all the competition, who will Conor actually face? To me, it looks like Michael Chandler is the front runner in that race. Dustin Poirier is kind of an unofficial expert on McGregor, having faced the Irishman thrice and having defeated him twice. It's safe to assume that his predictions might come true, and it looks like he has the back of his fellow veteran against Chandler. He told Eddie Mercado in an interview that he would favor Conor if that fight was to happen. But why? Well, because Poirier has defeated Chandler too, and not too long ago either. He submitted Chandler in a rear naked choke back in November last year at UFC 281. According to him, the iron is very hittable, and with Conor's timing, it's a no-brainer. Even with the extended timeout injured, Poirier would still pick the Irishman as the favorite going into the fight. What's more is that Conor has a longer reach too.
That's it. That's it.
Conor McGregor stops Dennis Seaver.
And Chandler slows down quite a bit in the later rounds. That's especially true if the American tries wrestling with McGregor in order to avoid getting hit. This will only make things easier for the Irishman, and he'll be able to tag Chandler with that infamous left hand.
Alvarez getting loose, getting better here in this round, though.
Oh, man.
Until that.
Oh, he's done. He's done.
History has been made. Conor McGregor is the UFC lightweight champion.
But then why would Chandler want to fight Conor? It's like I already told you. Conor brings in the biggest payday, and that's what the Iron wants too. He even said that he's willing to move up to 170 pounds just so he can secure the showdown, because Conor wants to come back and compete at that weight. Chandler even admitted that he's chasing the red panty night. He wants the brightest lights and the biggest platforms. And there's no one bigger than Conor McGregor in the sport. Money is always going to be a part of any fight that the Notorious is a part of, and the American acknowledges that. Chandler thinks that this fight is going to make the most pay-per-view sales because he's the most electrifying man in the UFC currently.
But honestly, that was honestly
That's something I'm not too sure of. He's lost 3 out of his last 5 fights in the UFC, given that his losses were to the likes of Poirier, Justin Gaethje, and Charles Oliveira. But somehow he's still in the top 5 of the lightweight division. I don't know how that happened, to be honest. Anyway, Conor has accepted the challenge on social media. He promised Chandler that the fight will happen before he retires from the UFC. And speaking of McGregor, things haven't been easy for him either. I mean, in his last 4 fights, he's only managed to win once. Just once.
Far enough away from danger as he starts teeing off.
Grandal looks hurt. Grandal looks hurt. This could be the end.
Big left.
This could be an early stoppage. Another first round for McGregor. This could be it!
That is it! It is all over and Conor McGregor!
This includes 2 defeats at the hands of Poirier himself, and 1 in the record-breaking fight against the Eagle, Khabib Nurmagomedov.
There's the choke. He's got it. It's under the neck. There it is. Nope, it's on the chin.
There's the tap! Still undisputed! Khabib Nurmagomedov!
In 2018, his only win was against the aging Donald Cerrone, but this will give him some confidence because he won that one competing at 170 pounds, the same weight that he's aiming to make his return at. Conor suffered a horrific injury in his last fight against Poirier in July 2021. The guy completely broke his leg, which has left him sidelined for almost 2 years now. The Notorious was eyeing a return early this year, but USADA regulations don't make it possible for him to do so. You still might be seeing him back in the cage sometime later in the year though. When exactly? That even even Dana White doesn't know for sure, or so he said in December last year. What we do know was that he wanted to return in February 2023. That's out of the question now, but there are a few hints that the Irishman has been dropping for us to follow. Some of you might have heard about Conor's new venture into Hollywood. While recovering, he's been working with none other than Jake Gyllenhaal on the remake of the classic Roadhouse. I'm not sure what his role will be in the movie, but his part is significant. He's even featured on the poster for it. A release date for the movie has not been announced as of yet, but it will premiere sometime in the next year. And since Conor has promised that he's going to be back in the octagon before the film releases, this brings me to the second hint. Late last year, Conor teased a documentary series about his career in the UFC so far. The 4-part show was set to be released on streaming services around the same time as his next fight. He promised fans that they're going to see how serious injuries affect athletes. Conor also said that he had completed the production of the first episode and that the rest will be done soon as well. He revealed that the first episode will be out before his next fight, and the whole series will be available before his Hollywood debut. The release date for the documentary was initially set for January 2023, but there have been delays obviously. If Conor keeps his promise, we might see the first episode aired sometime later this year. But why is there a delay in all of that? For that, we'll have to take a look at the final hint. The best indication of the Irishman's return is the timeline set by USADA. All UFC athletes have to abide by their rule of being tested for drugs for at least 6 months before they can compete.
Look at that uppercut.
Now, Marcus
Over the
is
top, looking to finish it here. Conor McGregor, another first-round win. Wow! Ultra-impressive UFC debut.
But some of you might be thinking, shouldn't he be enrolled already? Well, he was, before his injury anyway. After he snapped his leg in two, he opted to drop out of the testing pool so that he could recover. This says a lot about his recovery though. The guy looks jacked as hell, and that points to the use of steroids, peptides, and God knows what else. But he couldn't possibly hide this from his fellow fighters. I mean, these guys are training in the gym day in and day out. They know what's natural and who's taking the shorter way to bulk up. He was called out almost immediately by his colleagues after he started posting shirtless photos of himself on social media. This included well-known figures in the sport like Joe Rogan, Anthony Smith, Dustin Poirer, Rafael dos Anjos, and many more. And the fact that he wanted to be back in the cage in February was just crazy. Like, I'm not even sure he'd be able to pass any of the drug tests that soon. Joe Rogan even said that his piss would melt that USADA cup. Hilarious, isn't it? McGregor, being who he is, responded to everyone who called him out. Can't really say what's worse though, the fact that he's trying to justify drug use or the fact that the UFC is trying to protect him. They did let him drop out of the USADA pool to heal, but of course they would want their golden boy back inside the octagon no matter what. MMA as a sport is going a little stale lately, and there's no one better than Conor to make some noise and shake things up. Anyway, with the USADA rule of being in the pool for at least 6 months, I can safely tell you guys that Conor should be back sometime later in 2023. And that's all the latest on the McGregor situation. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.